an epic history TV and history market collaboration supported by our sponsor, the Great Courses Plus. In December 1805, at the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French, won a crushing victory against the combined forces of Austria and Russia. Now, Napoleon dominated Europe, free to distribute rewards and power as he saw fit. In February 1806, he sent an army led by Marshal Massena to overthrow the King of Naples, who had dared to side with France's enemies. Napoleon then placed his own brother Joseph on the Neapolitan throne. Another brother, Louis, became King of Holland. His German allies, Bavaria and Württemberg, were elevated to the rank of kingdoms, while Napoleon made himself protector of the Confederation of the Rhine, a new alliance of German states that would contribute 60,000 troops to his army. Recognizing this new political reality, Emperor Francis of Austria formally dissolved the Holy Roman Empire, founded by Charlemagne nearly 1,000 years earlier. Without influence or purpose, the ancient empire had come to an end. Austria was humiliated, but France remained at war with Britain, Sweden, and Russia. By the summer of 1806, however, all eyes turned toward Prussia, the road to war. King Frederick William III of Prussia regarded Napoleon with deep mistrust. He had been preparing to join the coalition against France when news arrived of the coalition's disastrous defeat at Austerlitz. The king was heavily influenced by his wife, the celebrated and popular Queen Louise, who detested France and Napoleon. She led the influential war party at the Prussian court. Tensions reached a breaking point over Hanover, a German state that had belonged to Britain's King George III. The French had occupied Hanover and later given it to Prussia as compensation for other territorial changes. Now, the Prussians learned that Napoleon had secretly offered to return Hanover to Britain in exchange for peace. Outraged, Frederick's advisors convinced him that war was the only honorable course. But Prussia then made a serious strategic mistake. It sent an ultimatum to Napoleon without first consulting its new allies in the Fourth Coalition. Their armies were too far away to offer any help, leaving Prussia to face Napoleon's grand army almost alone, with only the small state of Saxony as support. The Prussian army. In 1806, the Prussian army still had a fearsome reputation, one that dated back 50 years to the reign of Frederick the Great. Napoleon, a student of military history, respected that legacy. However, the Prussian army had grown complacent. Its generals were old, its staff work bogged down by bureaucracy and personal rivalries, and its maneuvers were slow and predictable. Even so, Prussian soldiers could always be relied upon to fight with pride and determination, and their cavalry was regarded as among the best in Europe. The French advance. In October 1806, Napoleon invaded Saxony with an army of 166,000 men and 256 guns, advancing in 3 columns. The French crossed a mountain forest of the Thuringia Wald along routes carefully scouted by spies and reconnaissance units. Napoleon's goal was to threaten Leipzig and force a decisive battle with the Prussian army, which he believed was near Gera. In reality, the Prussians were farther west, concentrating near Erfurt on the west bank of the River Saale. Their commander, the Duke of Brunswick, had hoped to threaten Napoleon's flank, but was outmaneuvered by the French emperor's speed and skill. He ordered a retreat north, hoping to find a stronger defensive position. The battle begins. On October 10th, at Saalfeld, Marshal Lanz's V Corps clashed with Prussian advance guard commanded by Prince Louis Ferdinand, the king's cousin. The Prussians were routed, and Prince Louis himself was killed in hand-to-hand combat by a quartermaster from the French 10th Hussars. 3 days later, Lanz made contact with a larger Prussian force near Jena and sent urgent word to Napoleon. Believing he had located the main Prussian army, Napoleon quickly ordered his corps to concentrate for battle at Jena. Bernadotte's I Corps and Davout's 3 Corps were crossed the Saale River and attacked the Prussian flank from the north. But Napoleon was mistaken. Lanz was actually facing only a 35,000-strong Prussian rearguard under General Hohenlohe, while the main Prussian army, 52,000 men under the Duke of Brunswick, was farther north, marching directly into the path of Davout's 3 Corps. The Battle of Jena, October 14th, 1806. The Battle of Jena began at 6:30 a.m. in thick fog. Marshal Lanz's V Corps already held a position on the plateau west of the town and river. His first objective was to drive back the Prussians and make room for the rest of the French army, which was arriving steadily throughout the morning. Fierce fighting erupted for control of the villages of Closewitz, Cospeda, and Lutzeroda. Meanwhile, Marshal Augereau's 7 Corps advanced through a ravine to deploy on Lanza's left flank, while Marshal Soult's 4 Corps climbed steep tracks to take position on his right. Battle of Jena, Auerstädt, 1806. Napoleon's lightning victory. Napoleon joined Marshal Lanz in the center of the battlefield, organizing a 25-gun battery to support the attack on the villages of Vetz and Heiligen. The French captured the villages, but soon lost them again to a determined Prussian counterattack. On the right, around 10 a.m., Soult's infantry secured Closewitz, but was soon counterattacked on its right flank near Röttingen. A decisive charge by Soult's light cavalry drove the Prussians back, routing their infantry and capturing 2 enemy colors. As Marshal Ney's 6th Corps began to arrive on the plateau, its fearless but impulsive commander ignored orders, plunging straight into fighting around Vetz and Heiligen. He became temporarily cut off by a Prussian counterattack and had to be rescued by the Imperial Guard cavalry. Meanwhile, General Hohenlohe expected 15,000 reinforcements under General Rutschel to arrive at any moment. Until then, he stayed mostly on the defensive, reinforcing his line and ordering limited counterattacks. But he had run out of time. Napoleon had begun the day with just 25,000 men. By 12:30 p.m., a steady stream of reinforcements had brought his strength up to 96,000. As the Emperor rode past the Imperial Guard, one eager young soldier shouted, "Forward!" Napoleon halted, demanded to know who had spoken, and sternly rebuked him, calling him a beardless youth who had no right to offer advice until he himself had commanded in 30 battles. The moment for action had come. Though the Imperial Guard, much to its frustration, remained in reserve, Napoleon ordered the other French corps forward in a general assault. The Prussian army began to give ground. At first it withdrew in good order, but soon the retreat turned into a full-scale rout. Murat's cavalry charged in pursuit, cutting down hundreds of fleeing Prussians with sabers. General Rutschel's 2 divisions finally arrived, but at the worst possible moment. They briefly slowed Lanza's advance, but were quickly outflanked, shattered by artillery fire, and charged down by French cuirassiers. Meanwhile, 12 miles north, the Battle of Auerstädt. While Napoleon fought at Jena, Marshal Davout was marching southwest, expecting to strike the Prussian left flank. Instead, he ran directly into the main Prussian army, 52,000 men under the Duke of Brunswick, heading north to take up new positions. Davout's 3 Corps, with just 27,000 men and 48 guns, now faced odds of 2-1. His supposed ally, Marshal Bernadotte's I Corps, which had orders to support him, was nowhere to be found. Davout, nicknamed the Iron Marshal, showed no sign of alarm. He quickly formed his 1st Division into a defensive line centered on the village of Hassenhausen. His infantry formed squares to repel a series of Prussian cavalry charges led by General Blücher's advance guard. As his other 2 infantry divisions arrived, they reinforced the line, standing firm against repeated Prussian assaults. But the Prussians' movements were slow and poorly coordinated, and they failed to use their numerical advantage to outflank Davout. Then, disaster struck the Prussian command. The Duke of Brunswick was shot through the eyes, a wound that proved fatal. King Frederick William III personally took command, but several Prussian units remained uncommitted, while the king, mistakenly believing he was facing Napoleon himself, hesitated. Around 12:15 p.m., Davout counterattacked. The Prussian line broke and fled. Davout had achieved a stunning victory against the odds, though at a heavy cost. His corps suffered 25% casualties, 1 in 4 men killed or wounded, while inflicting twice as many losses on the enemy. Aftermath and pursuit. When news reached Napoleon that Marshal Davout had single-handedly defeated the main Prussian army, the emperor was first in disbelief, then full of admiration. He later awarded Davout the title Duke of Auerstädt. In contrast, Marshal Bernadotte was nearly court-martialed for failing to support him. Napoleon's army now began a masterful pursuit of the shattered Prussian forces, giving them no time to recover. Within 2 weeks of the twin victories at Jena and Auerstädt, Napoleon's troops, led by Davout's heroic 3 Corps, entered Berlin. The next day, General Hohenlohe surrendered at Prenzlau. At Lübeck, General Blücher and 20,000 Prussians were driven out of the city after fierce fighting and forced to surrender. Meanwhile, 25,000 Prussians besieged at Magdeburg surrendered to Marshal Ney. Prussia's army had been obliterated by a Napoleonic blitzkrieg. In just 33 days, Prussia lost 20,000 dead, 140,000 prisoners, 800 guns, and 250 regimental standards. It was a humiliation that proud Prussians, like General Blücher, would neither forget nor forgive. But unlike Saxony, King Frederick William refused to make peace with Napoleon. He continued to resist in East Prussia, placing his hopes in the approaching Russian armies to save his kingdom. Despite another brilliant victory for Napoleon and the Grande Armée, the war was not yet over. Sponsored segment. Napoleon Bonaparte was one of history's greatest military commanders. But who were some of the worst? Find out in the Great Courses Plus lecture series, History's Great Military Blunders and the Lessons They Teach. It's a fascinating study of poor leadership, flawed strategy, and overconfidence, featuring even Napoleon himself. You can watch the full course as part of a free trial with the Great Courses Plus, an on-demand video service featuring over 70 history courses taught by top scholars. Watch anytime, anywhere, on your TV, laptop, or phone, and explore over 10,000 lectures covering everything from science and philosophy to cooking and personal development. Visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/epichistorytv or click the link in the video description to start your free trial today. Special thanks to History Marquee for the battle maps and animations, and to all Epic History TV Patreon supporters who make this series possible. Visit the Epic History TV Patreon page to learn how you can support the channel, get early access to new videos, and vote on future topics.